Welcome. My name is Nelson Castillo. This is my presentation for new media and new literacies for the Empire State University. Topic is digital literacy, digital inclusion, and social justice. Digital literacy, digital inclusion, justice. Today I will be discussing digital literacy, digital inclusion, and the digital divide and how it affects ESL learners and marginalized populations from a social justice standpoint. ESL learners are individuals who are learning English as a second language. The term marginalized describes a person or group that is pushed to the margin of society and rendered powerless. Social justice means that everyone deserves equal economic and political and social rights and opportunities. Discussing the intersection of digital literacy, inclusion, and social justice. I'll be exploring the intersection of digital literacy, inclusion, and social justice, and addressing the persistent inequalities faced by English as second language learners, ESL students. I will be briefly examining how access to digital tools and skills is essential, not only for academic success, but also for civic participation and economic opportunity. I will be discussing how meaningful digital inclusion must go beyond mere access to technology and instead encompass culturally responsive pedagogy, multilingual support, and systematic change. Ultimately, the goal is to reframe digital literacy as a tool for empowerment, equity, and justice for ESL learners in an increasingly digital educational landscape. This is a quote from one of my heroes and a social justice icon, Paulo Freire. This is taken from his book, Pedagogy of Freedom. This quote affected me as soon as I read it a couple years ago. First, it says that the education of the teacher should be so ethically grounded that any gap between professional and ethical formation is to be deplored. We should devote ourselves humbly but perseveringly to our profession in all its aspects: scientific formation, ethical rectitude, respect for others, coherence, capacity to live with and learn from what is different, and an ability to relate to others without letting our ill humor or our antipathy get in the way of our balanced judgment of the facts. Here are some definitions we should know. Digital literacy. Digital literacy encompasses the skills and abilities necessary for access once the technology is available, including a necessary understanding of the language and component hardware and software required to successfully navigate the technology. The digital divide. The digital divide implies the gap, whether based on socioeconomic status, education, geography, age, ability, language, or other factors for whom internet access is readily available and for those for whom it is not. Digital inclusion. Digital inclusion is the policy developed to close the digital divide and promote digital literacy. The yin and yang. Digital inclusion, digital exclusion. I have a excerpt from a book by Thomas Thompson and his colleagues, which you can find in my cited page. Uh, Related to these ideas of digital inclusion is the term digital exclusion. Okay? It's defined as social exclusion as having a variety of roots and potential meanings, but it's commonly used to denote a bundle of factors combined to marginalize the individual from collective processes and benefits, and suggests that this exclusion leads to digital exclusion, which in turn perpetuates and exacerbates the social exclusion. Well, having all this in mind, how does this affect ESL and marginalized populations? ESL and other marginalized groups are hit hardest by the digital divide. They often lack fast internet lessons that reflect their culture or support in their language. Without digital inclusion, they are cut off from these tools needed for work, school, civic participation, and even basic communication. When schools don't provide the right support, these learners fall further behind, not just in technology, but in society as a whole. Social media, very important. Using social media as a tool. Social media offers marginalized groups a unique platform to challenge systems of inequality, amplify their voices, and demand inclusion. But for ESL learners, social media can be a space to build community, express identity, and access language-rich content outside traditional classrooms. But the power of these platforms can only be realized if the learners have the digital skills and access needed to partake in it. So where do we go from here? The way forward is through inclusive digital media practices. Access alone is not enough. We must also ensure individuals have the skills, support, and opportunities to use digital tools meaningfully. Without this, social media and other digital spaces risk becoming just another area where inequality is simply just reproduced. For ESL learners in particular, overcoming the digital divide is not just about keeping up with technology. It's about gaining the tools to be heard, to belong, and to fully take part in a society that often overlooks them. Bridging this gap is a critical step towards true educational equity and social justice. Here again is another quote, which is very important and very impactful. This quote's from the book of Digital Literacy and Digital Inclusion, Information Policy and the Public Library. Something I suggest that you pick up and read. Um, in the contemporary world, digital literacy and digital inclusion are issues of social justice and human rights. Without literacy and inclusion online, an individual is cut off from the broadest available tool for education, information, and communication. Opportunities for participation in the workforce, school, civic engagement, entertainment, and many other facets of society are similarly curtailed or unavailable. It's just not fair. So here are my closing remarks. For ESL learners, digital inclusion is not a luxury, it's a lifeline. Without the tools and skills to access and navigate online spaces, these students are excluded from essential opportunities to learn, connect, and thrive. Morality demands that we grant access to basics, access to technology. Ensuring digital access and support for ESL learners is not just about bridging a gap in technology, it's about affirming their right to participate fully in society. That being said, I'm going to leave you with a quote from Bell Hooks in her book Teaching to Transgress. And I think it's something that all educators, whether it's instruction and training or classroom, it's something we should all embrace. She said, I entered the classroom with the assumption that we must build community in order to create a climate of openness and an intellectual rigor. Rather than focusing on issues of safety, I think that a feeling of community creates a sense that there is shared commitment and a common good that binds us. What we all ideally share is the desire to learn, to receive actively knowledge that enhances our intellectual development and our capacity to live more fully in the world. A capacity to live more fully in the world. Everyone should have access to this. Everyone should be able to feel this. Um, Thank you for taking the time to watch my presentation. The next slide is my works cited. Um, any one of these is a great read, and it is truly informative. I learned a lot, and I really um, was very happy with the content. Thank you again.